Hello everyone. Today we will be critiquing your homework assignments, and I must say, a lot of you did a fantastic job with your pieces that you have submitted in replicating an existing piece of artwork. So, Joseph, how about you talk a little bit about your piece?
Thank you, Miss Dre. I'll start us off. I made this one right here. I spent hours and hours on this. I did not sleep for weeks. Smile. It's just not right.
Joseph, phenomenal work telling me a little bit about your piece, and the class as well. Elena, it is your turn to tell me about your piece.
Oh no, Miss Draco. This is my piece. I made it in the midst of my despair and depression. I cried for days, and I think some of my tears got it. That's all.
Thank you, Elena, for telling us about your piece.
It's Elena!
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, our next piece. Fantastic work. He doesn't even need to be here, but he is absent today. We already know that he got an A on this assignment. Wouldn't you agree, class? Fantastic work. Yes. Now, this next one is an interesting piece. Ianthus, come up. Let's see a little bit about yours.
I did that one. It's a scribble.
How did you do this work?
I definitely spilled it a little bit. It's good.
Oh, very creative. I love it.
Creative. Yeah, class? Creative. I'm creative.
Now, our next piece of art work is here. Rob, what is this?
It's Lucia from one of my favorite anime shows, Nary, and the assignment was to pick something that exists to replicate, so I chose one of my favorite shows.
I did not ask for a TV show to be replicated. I'm not sure how that really applies to the homework assignment.
But it is an existing piece, though, right?
They were indeed copying true works of art, but I don't know about this one. I don't know, Mr. Miller. I think you deserve a C- on this one.
Hello all, and welcome to another episode of TerraTalk. And wouldn't you know it, I'm going to do this topic too, because it's practically a staple for any art-related channel on YouTube to do this topic, which is my teacher hates my anime work. But this could also apply to other styles as well, because, you know, everyone's got opinions and this and that. So we're going to be covering this topic today. I've got two guests with me today. We have Joemdoo and Knotteddragon, both good friends of mine. First question. Have you ever had an art teacher not like your artwork?
So, I'm going first. Yes, I had my high school teacher not necessarily hate my art, but say, don't draw anime to me. And at the time, I was like, you know, maybe there's something wrong with my art style. So that was my experience with that.
As for me, I haven't really had that issue. Most of my teachers have never straight up said no anime or just like no banning of a certain one. They usually just said I need to focus on these certain things. That's all I've ever had.
My story's a bit complicated. I will say that right now. It's I don't know. I'll start with, it all started with a portfolio interview. I went in to show, you know, an art college that I was planning to go to. My portfolio, and I included a lot of anime, manga related work in it, and he brought it up and said that, well, it's not really versatile enough and we're looking for more versatility, which was like, all right. Then I go to art school, and that's where it really started, where some teachers were accepting of it, others were like, I was either told don't do that at all, you'll never get work, or they'll be a little more constructive and say, you know, they're like, you know, you work in this work, you work this way, which is fine, but delve into other areas to learn the fundamentals first, essentially. Go on to question 2. Reflecting at the situation, why do you think the teacher did not like your work? / how do you think they could have worded it better?
Okay, so reflecting on it now, I feel like it was more the fundamentals of art. Like the teacher wanted me to focus on line, shape, form, things like that. And, anime kind of exaggerates that, and like basically they wanted me to understand the rules before breaking them. And I'm not exactly sure how the teacher could have worded it better, like maybe been a bit more supportive of my art, like, oh hey, that's really nice, but maybe, if you practiced or if you tried shading it a little bit, it looked, even better type of thing. So.
I think the better approach would be to just tell them that they can do this in their off time, but in the classroom, they have to do things the way that the teacher wants it. Just because they're trying to help lay down certain ground rules.
So most of the cases that I did have, and I mentioned before, I had a fair bit as I was going through art school. Most of them handled it pretty well. They were like, all right, for now you should focus on fundamentals instead of what you like to do, because then when you get a good grasp of the fundamentals, you can apply them to the style that you're aiming for, which at the time I agreed with. It was just difficult to change, Mm-hmm. It's hard to break a habit, essentially. Yeah. For the person that said, like, oh, you straight up not find work like that, that is a completely rude thing to say. You should not word it that way. It should just be focus on other things, build up your fundamentals, your basics, work in other styles so you can rule them out as well. And then if you really like what you used to do, you can go back and apply what you've learned to that. What style do you prefer to draw in?
Well, for me, I guess it's more of like a comic book style now, because I don't know how to explain it. Like, I guess I'm trying to find my own style, get out of anime a little bit, and basically experimenting with other people's styles to, see what I like and things like that. So it's like mostly comic book, but I'm trying to find my own style from it.
As for me, I really vary because I've always experimented with different things, not just different styles of drawing, but different mediums as well. So I like to try to apply even different techniques, mediums into my art. It always depends on it, because I've worked with pencil, color pencils, digital, which I've mainly been doing digital due to the access to unlimited colors. But it really varies on what I do. If I want to do a realistic drawing or like a scenery, sceneries I like to do more realistically, or even with a cartoonish touch depending on what I'm doing. Or if I want to just have fun, just draw anime. Whereas if I'm trying to do something for animation, I tend to leaning more towards the more American cartoon style, because it's more simplified and less shading, and it's a lot easier to do, especially when you have if you're doing 7 minutes and 3,000 plus frames, that's 3,000 plus drawing. It's easier to do more simple.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I call what I work on nowadays. It's sort of like a weird mixture of simplified Western cartooniness with anime. I'm still also in the same boat as you a little bit, trying to find what makes my work stand out. What is it exactly that, is TerraZoneZero / Rob C. Miller.
Yeah, it's not
so easy. The one thing I have found is I do like to do sharp angles and things like that. That's one thing I sort of randomly discovered, along with some other subtle little touches that I throw in there. So I'll say it's a weird mixture of cartooniness and anime, I guess, would be my favorite area to work in. Why do you think there is a strong biased opinion against the anime style?
Okay, so this goes back to fundamentals. I feel like anime is kind of really simplified, and when you think of a stereotypical anime character, like the head, their eyes are really big, their jaws are usually angular, sometimes they have really small to no noses. So it's like, the teachers, they want you to understand the fundamentals, because if you're copying, the anime style, you might not understand why you're doing it that way.
For me, I don't really think it's as much of that. I feel it's more of the obsession that a lot of people who do art, especially like where it's mainly in grade schools, like in K through 12, their anime, like middle school and up, is like a big thing. And like kids go crazy about it, and especially the art kids, and they're just constantly drawing it all the time, and the teachers see it constantly, and they constantly get these things, and they're seeing kids aren't being versatile with their stuff. So I feel like they don't feel as if that's a good thing for them to do, so they try to push them away from that. In the college aspect, it's about the same thing. They're not seeing the versatility of it. They're not expanding their view. They're only staying in that little box.
More or less, I have the same thoughts that Joe had. Basically, as I also mentioned before, they want to teach you the fundamentals. And if you're stuck doing one style, then you're not going to really learn more than what you're already doing. And likewise, if you do one style, that limits your capabilities in, say, if you're going into a commercial art field, or even if you're doing commissions. Somebody comes up to you and says, oh man, I would really like Superman drawn in the classic DC style or something. And if you're only doing anime, well then you can't really help that person, can you?
Well, or if that's what they're looking for, they wouldn't go to you then. They wouldn't even ask you.
True, you might not even get to that point. Sometimes somebody will try to challenge you. Overall, to be safe, practice different things. And we'll see, you just see where that takes you. It's just overall better to keep practicing a variety of things. Next we have, do you think teachers should let a student copy a style or explore something new?
I feel like it should be both. Because if you do multiple styles, like varying styles, and have the students copy them, they can learn like why the artists draw the way they did, how come they choose certain elements over others, and then it's like experiment with different art styles, or like art methods like pointillism or whatever, like try to make your own art out of it. So doing both would help the student find their own style in the end, I feel.
So I personally believe, like, when you first start out, all you really can do is copy, because you can't think of new ways to do things if you don't know the ways to do things. If there's no rules already set, how can you break them? So like, studying and learning different styles helps you be able to develop new styles, because you basically learn to take elements of these things and mix them together to create something. It's like taking yellow and blue and you make green. So it's really all you're doing is you're learning styles to be able to fuse into new styles. And so if you don't copy, you can't create something new. Instead of doing like the Starry Night we had up there before, you do like you use that same Starry Night style and you incorporate it into, like, let's say like a lake and a forest. Yeah, and like you use the style and it itself to make your own thing. And the same thing with anime. They have certain strokes that you have to learn. That helps really you learn on how to like do quick drawings. Like the more professional anime drawers, they draw an anime character extremely fast. Yeah. Because they know on where to put the stroke and how to do it. So it's just like copying is important, but not tracing.
Yeah. Don't trace.
Everything in moderation. That's definitely what I have to say. Doing a little bit of exploring new territory, but also copying other works, because it'll help you learn and pick up new skills. Like, oh, I didn't know I could draw this line this way, or something like that, even something as subtle as that. Like, so I believe both in moderation is good because you'll further yourself by doing both.
Now that I think about it, if you do things by copying it and doing it the exact same way that they did it, for example, if you copy Da Vinci's Mona Lisa and do it the same way he does it, not going out buying those paints and mixing them and making your own. No. Going out, finding all of the material to make those colors.
Yeah.
Like you're getting like iron and all this other stuff, grinding that up and making your own oil paints. Because that's what he did. And copying, you're learning so much doing that.
Do you think it's helpful to copy the anime style?
Okay, so personally I feel like yes and no. Yes, because you can learn a lot from anime, like, how to draw the style or how to do like anime in like a more simplified, like a stylized way. But also no, because at least for me personally, I struggled a lot with same face syndrome. It limits your art style if you can't draw different faces.
Yeah. It's more of like an end to like your studies. You want to learn other things to help improve your anime, because I haven't improved my anime by doing my anime that much. I improve my anime by doing other stuff. I guess it's just the limits that the anime goes through is different from like the cartoons. Cartoons have like a set standard where anime goes like more imaginative. They push the limit a little more, like outside the real world. Like their storytelling is really what draws people in. So like you create those stories with your anime characters, whereas cartoon characters, you keep it simple.
I think copying anything would help you in some way, shape, and form. Honestly, it could be any style out there. You'll get like a little subtle touch in your work by copying certain things. In anime's case, or anime and manga's case, you can learn to simplify if that's something that you enjoy doing. Some people like to create overly complicated, detailed pieces of work, and some people just want to simplify, like the human figure or objects in rooms and things of that nature. Look no further than certain Cartoon Network shows. They super simplify things. Anime can also help teach you expression, honestly. There's a case of same face syndrome. A lot of people in a lot of different anime and manga have like the same face structure and eyes.
I do not like those.
Yeah. No, that's
and similar things like that. But there are some that deviate a little bit and change the way the face works. Some people
they do that a lot with a lot more newer shows.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, where they make some faces more square, some are more round, and they play with the hair and the eyes a bit more sometimes as well.
Where they've changed that a lot more new, because I think that biasm is what, like that same face syndrome was something that anime and studios noticed. So the manga artists have been trying to versatile their facial structures more, and the same thing in the anime itself.
Because even if you look at real people in real life, they all have different face structures. Some people have like small faces that are more round, some have like taller faces, taller heads. I mean, I've seen this. I've seen it in pictures and stuff. So overall, I think you can get a little bit out of it, but definitely, once again, experiment in all fields when you're still in the learning stage. And then you can, when you get out of school, you can gravitate towards one area depending on where you're going. Overall, find something that you like. Find the things that naturally come to you when you are copying something. You will find their techniques and how they're doing things, and you'll look at it and be like, hey, doing that particular little thing was fun. I'm going to take that little bit and put it into what I do. So overall, take whatever it is that you found fun while experimenting with the styles and incorporate it. And this applies to anime as well. Incorporate it into your own work, and maybe you'll come out with something cool and original that's all you. Alright guys, that wraps up this episode of TerraTalk. More discussion-based one once again. Thank you, Knotteddragon and Joemdoo, for joining me in this episode of TerraTalk. Why do teachers hate anime? Lol. Because every channel's doing it, yeah. That'll be all, folks. Stay tuned for more TerraZone content.